Thank you for joining us today. I am Tara Jensen, Program Manager at Loudoun Habitat for Humanity. We are here with Aimee Taylor from Finished for Good, and we're going to talk about easy furniture transformation, update, or repurpose. Thank you, Aimee, for being here with us.
Absolutely.
So again, if you're just joining us and you'd like to participate, we'd love your questions and input, especially for this conversation, because it's going to be a fun one. Please click on the chat icon at the bottom of your screen. The chat will open and let us know you're here. And we'll go ahead and get started. Aimee, we have some questions for you today. So let me start with DIY transformation seems to be really popular right now. I mean, they're just exploding TV shows and people are selling upcycled furniture. People are buying upcycled furniture. So why are these transformations so important right now?
Well, furniture is the least recycled household item. And if you think about it, you have a table or a chair, it takes up a lot of space. You can see what kind of impact that's going to have for a landfill. The one figure I've heard is nearly 10 million tons of furniture go into the landfill each year. That's a lot. And honestly, I think we can do better. If you transform a piece or if you repurpose a piece, it keeps it out of the landfill. It also reduces your need to buy something new. Since I started Finish for Good, I've noticed when people put stuff on the curb, we all see that people put stuff on the curb, but I never really looked at the condition. In one instance, I got a call that somebody was just about to throw something out and I had to come get it right then or there. It was going to go to the trash. So I went and got it. It was actually 3 pieces. It was night. I looked at it in the morning. It was perfect condition, wasn't even dirty. So again, it was somebody that hadn't had the time or taken the time to donate it or look at transforming it, just wanted to put it out on the curb. Other times, unfortunately, I find that people will put something out that just has some minor repair. One was a chair that needed 4 screws. It took no time at all to replace the screws, to repair it, and then it was perfectly usable again. I think transformations are important because, again, when you update something, when you repurpose something, then it doesn't get thrown away.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's so common that we want to change our style every couple years. So, you know, shifting through furniture and bedding and dishes and all that, but there is so much opportunity in just kind of transforming what you already have. Because, you know, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm attached to some of the pieces I have, and I just kind of shift them as I remodel.
Sure, yeah.
So what do you mean by updating a piece? So is this something that anyone can do, or is this kind of a specialized skill?
Yep, absolutely anyone can do it. It takes time and it takes patience. And when I say time, I don't want you to think it takes a lot of time. Often when you're redoing a piece, it takes a lot of drying time or waiting time or curing time, but it's not necessarily hands-on time. And it's a really fun process. My background is in refinishing, so I strip and refinish things, and that really could be a whole webinar on its own. I'm not going to get into that today. It is a great way to update things, but I'm going to really talk about paint. Everybody can paint, right? Everybody knows how to paint. But if you look at something that you have in your house that's bugging you, try to articulate why it's bugging you. Like you were saying, Tara, maybe you've changed the style, or maybe it's just been there a while, it's gotten scratched up a bit. Maybe it looks old-fashioned.
Yeah, and I think that the picture up this old bench, right, I think is a perfect example. So, you know, it's got this kind of natural wood look, but, you know, there's so many opportunities for updating it. I think that's a picture of it too.
Yep. So that was an old shower bench that needed a little bit of sanding. It needed some weatherproofing, and now it's my garden bench.
Oh, it's great. It's beautiful.
So I got it for free, and I got it for free because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on my planting bench, typically because I often kill plants about halfway through the growing season. So, but I wanted something fun and colorful, and it really took no time at all to do this. Again, it's a lot of drying time, a lot of waiting in between coats, but not a lot of hands-on time.
Right. So really, when you say updating, you're just taking it in its natural form, so to speak, and then just giving it a fresh coat of color to match what you're doing.
Right, or even updating it. One example, and I don't know if people can relate to this, but when my husband and I first bought our house, we had just spent a lot of money on a house and weren't putting a ton into furniture. So we bought some bookcases that were on the cheaper side. And as our house evolved, we got nicer and nicer furnishings. We kind of looked at the bookcases and went, wow, those look terrible. These really kind of stick out now, but we didn't want to get rid of them. They fit the books perfectly. They fit the room perfectly. So we painted them, and we painted in the same color as the wall that they were in front of. It took no time at all. We got to keep the bookcases, and instantly they looked like they've been upgraded, right? They looked a lot nicer. Sometimes with those, what we call the cheapo bookcases, you can even fill in the holes that you use to adjust the shelves, right? Put some putty in there, paint over it, and it looks so much more exquisite, if you will.
Yes.
But really, if you look at the piece and figure out what's bugging you about it, it's easy to try to get an idea to update it. Is it maybe it needs some paint? Maybe it needs new hardware. I guess another thing you can do really, oh, thank you. Another thing you can do really is look at some of the vintage shops. If you go into like the shabby chic or the antique shops nowadays, you might think, well, I've got this old outdated dresser. They're selling that same old outdated dresser, but they've updated it. They put paint on it and they've changed the hardware, and you're like, wow, that looks incredible. The reason they're doing it is because it sells, it looks modern, and it's really got good bones to it.
Right. And so this is a piece that you've done.
Yes, these are two pieces that were given away, a moving sale. Somebody was moving and wanted to get rid of them quickly. They didn't match each other, and they had a lot of wood colors going on, as you can see in the before picture. There's sort of a reddish tint and a more brown tint, and they just look kind of dated. So I stripped the tops and I've restained them to even out the color, and I painted the bottoms and I switched out the knobs. So instantly I feel like they look a lot more modern. You know,
absolutely, it's a great transformation. They're beautiful.
But you know, this wasn't something that took a ton of hands-on time. Wasn't something that required a lot of knowledge. I think it used to be that you'd have to kind of look at the paint can and you look at something in 4-point font and try to figure out what you were supposed to do. Nowadays, there's so many ideas and resources online from the paint manufacturers, even from the brush manufacturers, that give you inspiration for what to do with pieces. You don't have to come up with it all on your own. And you know, on these pieces, I did use furniture paint, which can be expensive, but you can use, like the example of my bookcases, you can use regular latex paint. Go to the section of a hardware store where they have paint that maybe someone has returned. You can get some $2 paint and you can make a transformation. It doesn't have to be expensive either.
Right. Aimee, those are all the tricks of repurposers and updaters.
I know.
Because I have been there before too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for sharing those tips.
Well, the only caution I would say is, you know, if you have something at home that is truly an antique, don't paint it. Leave it be. Because if you want to get any value of it down the road and you've painted it, you're never going to be able to sort of get it back. I'm talking about painting things like these two end tables here that really aren't that old. They just needed a new look to it. If you have something that's truly an antique, look at refinishing it or getting it professionally refinished.
Oh, that's a great idea, because that, you know, it's one of those better with age. So those pieces do maintain and retain their value. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So that's kind of updating.
Yeah.
So let's talk about repurposing. What is the importance and the value in repurposing furniture?
So maybe you have a piece of furniture in your house that doesn't work where it is right now, but you can use it for something else. One example, I recently found this stool that my daughters used to use to wash their hands when they couldn't reach the sink. Well, those years are long gone. But it took me about 5 minutes to take the Hello Kitty stickers off and 5 minutes to sand them down. But then I stained them the exact color of my bathroom, and I put candles and magazines on, and it sits beside my bathtub. It was an easy transformation, but I never could have bought anything that would have matched exactly, right? By doing it myself, I was able to customize it, make it exactly the way I wanted it. You know, the shower bench you showed earlier is an example of repurposing something that was a shower bench, and now it holds my plants. Behind me, I have a piano. What used to be a piano, it's now a desk. I made it into a desk. That was a little bit more intense as far as transformations, but I didn't want to throw it out. This was a 100-year-old piece that had some character to it, and I wanted to save it as much as I could. It's no longer a piano, but it is a desk in our home now. You probably know, you've probably seen, Tara, that a lot of places, a lot of people are getting rid of pianos and entertainment centers, china cabinets, a lot of the bigger pieces. People don't want those bigger pieces anymore. And I know that Habitat doesn't take them and other places aren't taking them, so people are sending them to the dump. There are still things you can do, and I would invite you just to Google or use Pinterest to take a look at some of the ideas. I have seen people take entertainment centers. They take the little bit where the TV slides out and they put a coffee maker there. They put hooks up above, and that's where you hook your coffee mugs, and then you slide your supplies in where the DVDs used to go, right? And it's an instant update, and it's cute. You can do the same for a wine bar. I've even seen people use the smaller entertainment centers and turn them into play kitchens. If you haven't ever seen that before, it's very clever. People have such wonderful, wonderful creativity and great ideas. You don't have to do it yourself. Look, see what other people have done if you're looking to repurpose. But some of those things as well, even if you don't want them, look to donate before you throw it out. When we got rid of our entertainment center several years back, a theater group wanted it because they were interested in it for production of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It was going to play the part of the wardrobe. Sometimes nonprofits can use it as a piece of office furniture. There's always someone that can take it, or at least do your best to try it before you throw it out.
Definitely. Thank you for that. So what I have here, just for everyone to see, is a stack of old fencing that I actually got a couple months ago, and it's been sitting in my garage and then just recently I sanded it down and turned it into a flower garden for our backyard, and it's great. It's sturdy. I was able to use the wood because I didn't really want to bring it in the home, so it's being able to stay outside where it belongs. So just another example of taking something, old fence that was going to go into the landfill. I mean, some contractors are going to throw it away, and I salvaged it and was able to make something really useful for our family. So there are so many ways that you can be creative in making new things out of older pieces.
That looks fantastic.
Yeah, I recently saw someone took a side table and actually made a bench out of it. They just lifted the top of it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, cut out the first drawer, left the second drawer, and it was a bench. It was the cutest little transformation. So many great ideas in transforming pieces so that you can, like you said, Aimee, keep it out of the landfill.
Yep, absolutely.
That's great. We're moving on to some more fun conversation. We've talked about taking care of things you already have or things that you've picked up. But let's talk about when you truly need to buy something new. You don't want to spend a lot of money on it. You have a small budget, or you're like one of us and you like and want to keep things out of landfills, and so that's driving you. So let's talk about that a little bit, Aimee.
Sure. Well, it's fun to buy something new, right? And sometimes when you're just starting out, like I said, maybe your first place, or you don't want to spend a lot of money, you can get something cheap and mass produced, right? From the store. 20 bucks will get you an end table. But the first time you vacuum and you hit it, it's going to get dinged. Or the first time you move the lamp across the top, it's going to get scratched. And those things really weren't made to last, and they're really not fixable. You can't sand it down and stain it because it's probably not real wood. A lot of people think, oh, I only spent $20, no big deal, I'll just get rid of it, it'll go to the landfill and it'll be recycled. Well, again, that's not necessarily true, because even if it is real wood underneath, and usually it's not, the stuff that they treat it with, the stuff that they put on top to try to make it durable, makes it so it cannot be recycled. So that's part of the problem, the cycle you kind of get in cheap furniture. Oh, it doesn't, not a big deal, and then it becomes very much a throwaway cycle. If you visit the Restore, and we've got some pictures up here, you can pay the same amount of money, 20 bucks, for example, and get a piece that's unique and durable. So the Restore has already looked at things when they come in, and they make sure that the stuff is not the mass-produced cheap stuff, and that it's not damaged extensively, and it can easily be reused and repurposed. It's got good bones, it's got a good price, and there's usually some really unique pieces if you go to the Restore. So I went about 2 weeks ago, I had my mask, I didn't touch anything, but I took 3 photos of things that I thought were very, very cute at the Restore. And if we start at the top with the little dresser, the 3-drawer dresser, I picked that out because I think it's adorable.
Yes, it
I love the
is.
shape of it. Think about what you would do with that. If it were me, I would paint it a bright color. I would change the knobs to something kind of maybe glass, and I would use it as a hall table.
Yes. To me, it's got this really cute, almost Alice in Wonderland type of shape to it. So
Yeah.
for me, I can see having maybe some diamond painted on the drawers with a colored top, you know, bright for a young girl's room.
Oh, yeah.
So I see a lot of life in this one also.
I think I think it's fun. With the shape of it, it's definitely something that draws some attention to itself.
Absolutely.
So then the bottom left, I was walking through the Restore and I just saw this brown table with this bright blue knob. It's just sort of inviting people to come and look at me, I've got a blue knob.
Someone attempted to make this change.
I think someone did try, but again, it looks very sturdy. It's a narrow table, and I think that's good because sometimes you just want a small thing to put a plant or a lamp on. It's not huge. It's also a good starter project. If you want to transform something, it's not that big that's going to be overwhelming, right? So it would be a really good starter piece if you want to try a transformation.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think too that it doesn't have too many shapes and elaborate corners where you really have to get some detail. So I agree. I think it's going to be a fun piece for someone to work on.
Yeah, I think I could see it painted. I think I would try to stain it just to see. But that's my own inclination, is to stain things. But I could see it painted too.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think just depending on, you know, everyone has their own style, but and they've come out with some great staining options. So not just your typical maple, you know, chestnut, walnut. You can do gray weathered. I've been kind of dabbling with that recently.
Yeah.
You know, that driftwood look, or going really dark if you have a room and you kind of want that espresso look. So there are so many staining options too, on top of paint. I mean, there's more paint colors coming out every day. It's unbelievable. So many options for this.
Absolutely. They are making it easier. All right,
Okay,
these
two chairs. One is a little special to me. So
you know, I want you to talk about the chairs, Tara.
Well, ironically, after Aimee sent me these pictures, I actually picked these up and purchased them at the Restore last week. And so I have kind of actually what I was just talking about. I'd like to sand them down and take a gray driftwood approach to them, because to me they look real beachy and light and summery. So that's kind of the direction I'd like to go with these. But so it's going to be a very simple update for me. But Aimee, what are some repurposing options for these?
I've seen people take stools and use them as cute plant stands. You can, this would take a little bit more work because of the slats, but you could try to weatherproof it to put it outside. And I think, that might be fun to have a plant on with this kind of drapey, but I don't know, I kind of like that weathered idea. That's cute. Do you know where you're going to put them?
Oh, in my kitchen island.
Perfect.
Yep, I had a plan for them from the beginning.
Good.
But you reminded me, there's these great stools that people get, and they have those wicker seats. So often they have broken through, and just look at them and how would I ever use that as a seat again? Those are great options for putting a planter in, because you've got this great foundation for a planter, but the seat is really not functional anymore.
Yep.
That's a great option for that.
Yeah, it really just use your imagination. There's so many different things you can do, and it's funky, and then really becomes a conversation piece. Say you pick something up at the Restore, take a picture of it, finish transforming it, and stick that picture in the drawer. When people come over, say, "This is what it used to look like. Can you believe it?" Right? It's unique. It's going to be different from something anybody else has. Yeah.
So to take that a little further, how do we shop for used pieces of furniture when we want to buy something new?
Well, again, I think if you shop at the Restore, they've done it for you. So they're going to take the stuff that has the good bones. They're not going to take the cheaper mass-produced stuff or stuff that requires a lot of repair. So if you go to Restore, a lot of that's done for you. If you're buying from a yard sale or secondhand, take a look at it, put your hands on it. Is there a lot of repair work? Evaluate that against your own abilities. If it's got a scratch, you can sand it out. Anybody can sand out a scratch. If it's got veneer missing, that's quite a difficult repair, right? That's something that's going to take a lot higher skill level. Open the drawers. If it has drawers, that's usually a good way to see how solid and the quality of the piece. You can always give it a wobble, right? Just put your hands on it, give it a wobble, but don't let that deter you, because often it's just a little bit of adjustment that you know, it doesn't necessarily mean the piece is bad, but just figure out what's involved. Is it just a screw that needs to be tightened, or is it something major?
Even you can get really creative too. I think if you were to change out the legs or the feet sometimes,
yeah,
where, you know, you have a piece that's really broken, but the feet are still really good, swap those out, get really settled, and you're good to go.
I've seen people cut things down, stools that were maybe large stools that become sort of shorter footstools, right? Just to even it out. There's all sorts of things you can do. But again, you know, like we mentioned about the piece here with the blue knob, start small. If you're going to if you're evaluating something you want to transform, start small. Don't overwhelm yourself. If it's a first-time project, my first-time project was a recipe box that was this size, right? I didn't start with a dining room set, or I didn't start with a piano.
Yeah, it's good to pace yourself, right? Just a little.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I think we might have some questions from our viewers. Would you like to answer some?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can share. Okay, so we have a question from Jennifer. What kind of paint did you use for your shower bench? So you had mentioned a little bit before, but is there something in particular that you really like and want to share?
For that particular, I just used milk paint. It was actually the same color that's used in the back of this piano here behind me. I had it left over, and I liked the blue. So it was a milk paint. I gave it a couple of coats. And then because I use it outside, I used 2 or 3 coats of like an outdoor polyurethane to make sure that it stayed sealed when I watered plants, or you know, it rained, that kind of thing.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You could basically use any type of plant. Just make sure if it's used outside, or any type of paint, just make sure that it's sealed well.
Yes. So you used quite a few coats of polyurethane. Is that?
I did.
Clear and a matte, is that right? Or, I'm sorry, gloss and a matte.
Yeah, sometimes you get variations in between, but yeah. And this was just a simple outdoor one that I had, you know, for anything that you place outdoors.
That's awesome. If you do have other questions for Aimee, please go ahead and type them into our chat. We're going to answer just a couple more, but if you're thinking of stuff for Aimee, go ahead and ask it now. Aimee, I think we have one more question. So, Aimee, what is the largest piece of furniture you did? You did the piano, but what is the largest piece of furniture that you have done?
It would definitely be the piano. I think is the largest thing I've tackled. I'm currently redoing my family's kitchen table and chairs, and that's time consuming. I'm just starting that. I've just only done one chair so far, a little early in the process, but definitely the piano. You know, I didn't know anything about taking a piano apart. It took me about a year, but I was able to recycle a lot of the parts. I gave most of the keys to an art teacher who used them for a project. I recycled the frame with a metal recycler, and I was able to give some of the other parts away as well. But I incorporated a lot of the piano into the desk just to keep it, because I liked it.
That's great. What a great repurpose. So we have a question from Chris. Chris, thank you for joining us today. Aimee, do you have a type of stain that you prefer?
I sort of am old-fashioned with stain. I like just a basic brush-on stain. I know you can get gel stains nowadays, which are a lot easier, and I have used them. That's a very simple wipe-on, but I use just a basic Minwax brush-on stain. That's sort of the easiest, sort of tested and true that I've used for a while.
That's great.
And it's oil-based as well.
Okay. And so you prefer an oil-based over water-based?
I do, for stain, yes.
Yeah. So if you were to paint, say you didn't want to strip a piece, right? You it had a light coat of paint on it. You kind of just wanted to give a darker coat to it. Do you stick with the same kind of paint? Do you put a primer over that? How would you handle that?
It depends. If you're painting over paint, then I would sand it as much as you could. You know, it depends how shiny and how shiny the paint is, because whatever you're going to put on top needs something to grip to. So you have to shine off the previous top coat in the previous paint, just to give it something to adhere to. If you're painting over stain, there's always the risk that you're going to have the stain bleed through, especially if you have something a bit more dark or red. That's going to bleed through a lighter color, a lighter paint color. You may need to look at doing a primer for that. It's hard to know without seeing a particular piece, but generally, if you're painting over something with a lighter color, yes, you might think about using a primer. Now, you can stain over stain nowadays with some of the gel stains.
Right?
Yeah, if you go darker, only if you go darker, correct. Yeah.
Okay. Great. So we have one more question.
Okay.
What's one trick you found especially useful for refinishing? Kind of your trade secrets.
One trick. Well, one thing I use, and this seems kind of silly, but I use yogurt pots.
Oh.
And yogurt pots is what I cut them up into different shapes, especially if I'm doing stripping of very fiddly pieces or spindles or something like that. I will cut yogurt pots into various shapes so that I can get in and strip the old varnish off. And I use those because they don't scratch the furniture. And when I cut them, I can cut them into the shape I'm trying to go around. Right now, I'm trying to scrape varnish off of an old ball and claw leg of a piece, and it's really difficult to get in the nooks and crannies, and I do not want to scratch it with what I normally use as a razor blade. So these yogurt pots, which I custom shape into scrapers for myself, have really worked well, and I'm happy, and we use yogurt all the time, so it's a perfect way to recycle those too.
Aimee, that is an amazing trick, because I'll be honest, I sometimes steer away from pieces that have really curved edges because of that, that one simple fact of I don't know how to.
You can't get in there.
Get all of the stripping off of this.
Yeah.
That's a great trick. And I guess really what that says to all of us is be creative. Don't feel so constrained to all the tools that are in the store or ways that you have done it before. Think out of the box, be creative and get that done.
Have fun with it, really, because it is a fun process. It is a creative process. Don't be too timid that you're going to make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes, but sometimes when you do make a mistake, it leads you to learn something new, or it leads you just to try something you wouldn't have tried before. So have fun with it.
Yeah, that's great. I have one more question for you.
Okay.
What kind of space are you creating when you're doing some of this refinishing? I mean, do you set up a drop cloths and, because this can be a really messy process.
Yeah.
Creating
so usually,
an area for yourself.
Yeah, I use my garage, which isn't ideal, but I use my garage. I put down newspaper, or sometimes if I'm staining drop cloths. The main issue, I think, if you're working in your garage is you get dust. No matter how clean you keep it, you have stuff blowing in, which is always a challenge with when you're trying to paint or stain things, to get dust in either your stain or your polyurethane, because it shows up. You can feel it in the final product. So, but right now I just do use my garage and take as best precautions as I can with fans and keeping things as clean as I can.
Great. Thank you so much, Aimee. I think this is all we have time for today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. And we welcome you back again, because we love having you, and this is such a great topic for our restore. So thank you so much.
I hope it inspires people to try something new, and send pictures if you do want to see what you do.
Absolutely. Yes, that's a great idea. And actually right now on our Facebook page, we would invite you to share with us what you have accomplished. We would love to see it. I think I just shared my flower box. Aimee, if you have something you'd love to share, we'd love to see it. We invite everyone to join in and have some fun with this. This is great. If you're looking for finished for good products or more products, go to our restore at www.loudounrestore.org, and you can actually shop online right now during this COVID season. Thank you again, Aimee, for joining us. Next week, join us on Thursday. We're talking about taking control of your finances, kind of shifting our focus a little bit. But taking control of your finances, savings, and retirement. On behalf,
Good topic.
yes, thank you. On behalf of Tools for Life Learning Center, thank you very much for joining us.